runs the gamut. You still have the need for high quality.
Tackling the challenges of e-commerce fulfillment. Well, joining us to speak about that today is Cliff Otto, president of Saddle Creek Logistics. Cliff, welcome.
Thank you, Russell. It's good to be here.
Cliff, clearly consumers are turning more and more to e-retailing, if you will. It's growing by leaps and bounds. Some estimates indicate that it's growing 10% a year, and by 2015 it might reach $279 billion a year in transactions. Well, clearly that's got to have great impact on order fulfillment and logistics. I wonder if you could spend a moment or two and walk us through that impact. How is it affecting those areas?
You're right, it is having a huge impact on the entire world, really, of logistics services. One of the big challenges in this whole transition, if you will, is the move towards multi-channeling. So traditional retailers now have to play in both their space and in the e-commerce space. The e-commerce people are finding that they're going to have to find ways to deliver the in-store experience as well as what they're doing online. So multi-channeling, it is the expectations of the consumer, though, don't change regardless of whether they're doing an in-store buy or an online buy. They still expect to get the right product on time all the time.
You know, it sounds to me like order fulfillment then is becoming a much more complex process. Would you agree with that characterization?
It is. It's driven by the tremendous variety in the kinds of products that are flowing through that channel, the demands, again, of the consumer for that perfect order on time, even though they don't leave actually their desk in front of their computer to do the buying experience. As a result, what we're finding as a logistics provider is the complexity is driving technology investments that are necessary to be able to deal with that broad range of products and that extremely high service demand.
Well, let's talk then more specifically about the challenges that you at Saddle Creek or anybody that's involved in this arena has got to deal with in order to handle these complexities in e-fulfillment.
You know, it runs the gamut. You still have the need for high quality people, and in some ways they need to be more tech savvy than they used to be. So we find that the hiring requirements are changing. We are constantly having to revise and upgrade what we're doing from a systems investment perspective to drive the technology investments, which is point 3, and one I made earlier. We're spending more money, more capital intensive investments in warehouse management technology solutions in order to meet that service demand. We're also upgrading what we're doing on the transportation services arena because many of these customers in e-commerce fulfillment are small to medium-sized companies who are looking to their logistics provider to also provide the transportation services.
You know, let me wear the hat, if you will, of a retailer who is looking to increase the e-fulfillment that I want to do. I want to capitalize more and more on online retailing. But of course, I'm not the expert in the logistics needs or the fulfillment needs. I'm coming to you, and I don't really know all of the challenges that I'm going to face. I don't really know all of the things I need to know about that area. What are you going to tell me? Walk me through the requirements that I have and how it is that you as a provider can meet them.
Well, the first thing I'm going to ask you is the same information I would ask you if you were an in-store kind of supplier. What products are we talking about? How many SKUs? What's the demand profile of those products, so that I can come back to you and give you 2 kinds of recommendations. The first one is, here's the technology that I think we're going to need to address your requirements. And then secondly, here's the network. And that's oftentimes driven by not only demand, where the demand for your product rests, what are your service requirements in terms of, do you require next day delivery, do you require second day delivery, and then thirdly, where does the product come from? Is it an overseas product? Are you doing domestic manufacturing? Are you near sourcing? The advantage of having a nationwide network and being able to come to them with a variety of recommendations that incorporate all of those items is an important part of the service offering. Finally, we're going to talk about the front-end services. Do you require assistance in order management? Do you require the ability to deal with credit cards, those kinds of things? And are you looking for your service provider to handle those? I will tell you that typically, most people don't want to let go of the direct customer experience. And I don't blame them for that. I think that if I were in that business, I'd be happy to outsource everything else, but if I'm dealing with my consumer, I want that relationship.
Well, you know, I was going to ask you if typically most companies do outsource all of the fulfillment function. You're telling me that no, they don't.
No.
Walk us through that. Why not? Why not?
Well, just to that point, I mean, I think that that they want to retain that touch with the consumer so that they can reach out to the consumer. They can tell them about new products offerings and new ways to use the products that they're offering them, and not have to have that flow through a third-party provider before it ultimately touches the consumer. But then taking that information and translating it into an order that meets the service requirements and reaches the consumer and deals with returns effectively are really the kinds of solutions that we specialize in. And I think by and large, most of our customers and prospects, that's the bundle of services that they really want to look seriously at.
Let's look down the road prospectively. Trends, where is fulfillment outsourcing going? What's going to be happening next? What's your view?
Continued explosive growth. The better the bundle of services is for that consumer, the more likely that consumer is to select the online experience versus the in-store experience. There'll always be some exceptions to that. You know, there are plenty of consumers who enjoy the opportunity to browse and feel and see and touch physically what they're going to buy. But given the growth trend that you've seen in e-commerce retailing, there is absolutely no reason to believe that it isn't going to continue to rapidly expand, and the complexity of the solutions that those of us in this business are going to have to provide are going to continue to expand as well. So you need to be big enough to be able to make those kinds of investments to support that.
You know, at the top of the interview, we talked about growth in this area, 10% a year, reaching $279 billion by 2015. Assuming that those statistics are realistic, and you've just indicated growth is going to be explosive, omni-channel retailing is going to require providers that are sophisticated and really have a breadth of services. Do you think there are a number of companies out there, a number of providers who will not be able to meet those needs? Do you see certain providers falling out and being unable to compete?
Only in the sense of their ability to support the level of capital investment that's going to be necessary to remain competitive. And that's no different than any other logistics trend that we've seen over the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years. You know, the more complex that environment gets, the larger that investment becomes necessary to support that, and some companies are just not big enough to do that.
All right. Well, going forward then, it sounds very hopeful for Saddle Creek. Cliff, I know you're busy here, but you took time to meet with us. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. I enjoyed it, Russell. Thank you.
It's Cliff Otto, Saddle Creek Logistics, and speaking with us today about tackling the challenges of e-commerce fulfillment. Well, thank you for watching.